Let's face it, I'm going to come out and say something that probably I shouldn't say, but being gay is not for the faint of heart. Think about it. It's a relentless grind. It's full of hostility a lot of times, negative perceptions, poor media portrayals, on and on and on, and the end result is feeling lonely and isolated, always struggling to find your place. I'm going to tell you that it takes a lot of grit to be gay in this world, to face your fears, the fears of coming out, the fears of connecting, the fears of just being yourself, the fears of being transparent, and to keep going no matter how tough it gets. What if the very thing you've been taught to bury is the one thing that can transform all that crap into something that would become your greatest strength? Following are 5 reasons why I think that vulnerability is the ultimate gay superpower. So let's get started. 1. Connection. Authentic connection. And I can tell you in the gay community, this is one of the biggest struggles that men deal with. The pressure to conform and to fit in, to have it all together, to have the perfect outer image so that they won't be rejected. It is such a struggle, but people are craving connection. And if you're a fake, superficial person, and if you have this facade up, they're only going to see someone that you're not. And on the inside, you're going to be crying to be known. And I can tell you the biggest breakthroughs that I have had personally is when I have stood my ground and said, this is who I am. A while back, I was in a dating relationship where I was really struggling and wondering if this person was really wanting to be in a relationship. And I had to really kind of be vulnerable and say, I'm not sure this is going to work out. And that step actually furthered the relationship. I could have just gone on happily saying, oh, I think this guy likes me and I think it's okay. And I'm just going to pretend that I'm on board with this. When on the inside, I was like, no, I'm not on board with this. I feel like I'm not really getting the real picture here. Please tell me what you see in this relationship. I didn't say it in those words, but I took a risk. And in fact, when you take risks, this is going to be your biggest jumping points to going on and furthering that relationship. And everyone, I can tell you, is craving a deeper level of connection. If you think they aren't, you're fooling yourself. So I would say that the number one reason, the first reason that gay vulnerability is a superpower is authentic connection. It's the first and number one reason why vulnerability is so critical in today's gay relationships. 2, resilience, emotional resilience. And it may sound a little funny. What does resilience have to do with vulnerability? Vulnerability should be perceived as a weakness, right? However, every time you take a risk, you're making yourself a little bit stronger. You're validating yourself every time you step out there and you allow yourself to be known and seen, especially when it feels risky. And that could be standing your ground in a family situation. It could be revealing who you are at your workplace. It could be, like I said before, sharing something with someone that you're in a relationship with. Every time you do it, it makes you just a little bit stronger. And everyone feels that vulnerability is like, especially with men. Men have to have this tough exterior, and vulnerability is the ultimate opposite of that. But it's going to be something that when the time comes, when you really need to stand your ground, you have practiced again and again and again, and it makes your mindset so much stronger when you know that you can rely on yourself and you have had that track record of just being yourself. Every time you do that, you're just going to make yourself shored up to become a stronger, more resilient human being. So the number 2 reason why I think that vulnerability is a superpower is flipping emotional resilience, baby. 3, it changes the narrative, not only for you, but for everyone around you. Face it, we are in a world where being gay means on the outside, people viewing us from the outside, that we behave a certain way, or that we're all feminized, or that we're all sexualized, or that we can't be committed in a relationship. These are all narratives that are a lot of times just thrust on us. The world thrusts it on us, religion thrusts it on us, and our own community thrusts it on us. That is why it can be so hard to go up the stream, to go against the grain. But when you are vulnerable, you allow yourself to say, I am taking charge of that narrative about me. I am standing my ground to say this is who I am. Now again, that might seem kind of funny. Just like before, when you think that vulnerability is perceived to be a weakness, but it's actually your greatest strength, when you change the narrative by saying, hey, you know what, I'm not going to follow that stereotype. You know what, I am someone who is long-term minded. I am someone who, yeah, I struggle with this idealized image that people have of me, but on the inside, I'm a really nice guy. I have feelings. Oh, that's another one. So I see this a lot when a lot of men tend to fetishize this ultra hyper masculine appearance. They will have the type of attire, the leather, the boots, the scruffy beard, all that kind of thing. And it's not really real, because on the inside, these guys are completely the opposite. I've seen them. I feel like they're going around masquerading. And that is not really true. Again, you're just changing the narrative that says you have to be this like toxic, ultra masculinized man that doesn't have any need for anybody. But if you can just be real with yourself and real with those around you, and really be, hey, you know what? I struggle. I'm afraid. I feel stressed out. I have a lot of anxiety about this. I can tell you when guys have told me that especially guys that I never thought in a million years they would have struggled with this, when they say, I have a lot of anxiety. I'm really afraid to go into that room. I really don't like social situations. That just changes my whole view of them. And so because they've been that way, they've shaped how I view them. And they are actually changing that. So the number 3 reason why vulnerability is such a superpower is because it changes the narrative. 4, empathy. Vulnerability will enhance and strengthen and grow your ability to be an empathetic person, an empathetic son, an empathetic boyfriend, an empathetic friend, an empathetic colleague. It will make you so much more attuned to what other people are going through, because it's not just about being seen, it's about seeing others as well. Not only letting yourself be seen, but the other person now can see you as well. And because that's happening, because that exchange is happening, you're able to kind of relate a little better with others. And they are able to relate better with you. Because you've just changed the narrative, like I said before. You've stripped away someone's perception of you. And you've allowed them to see more of the real you. And that makes them more understanding of you. And at the same time, because you're making yourself someone who is going to step out there, you can be more understanding of others as well. And you could say, oh man, I understand. That's really hard. When that person comes up to you and says, I really struggle with anxiety and I don't like going through and going to a party or going somewhere where I had to make myself feel exposed to other people, you can say, I can relate to that too. Because now you're dealing with it in yourself. Because you're being someone who is facing down the things that you struggle with, and you're taking those steps to disclose who you are, the baby steps. You're going to be someone who can relate so much better. And you know what happens? When you are someone who has that degree of empathy because you allowed yourself to become vulnerable and let others see you, you're going to set off a chain reaction because it's going to ripple out. And that is the most cool thing that can happen. Years ago, I was doing dinner parties, and I had to tell you, doing dinner parties in an urban gay community is very intimidating. I mean, in my mind, I felt it was intimidating, except for the fact that when I started to do them, I realized like everyone feels intimidated to open up your home to other people, especially guys who could judge you for, how your place looks. And as you can see around, I have a really small apartment and it's not really conducive to having dinner parties, basically. I don't even have a dining room set. And I had to invite people in, and man, it was a struggle to let people into my home. And initially I didn't even have things hanging up, and I didn't have the best dishes. And I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to do this. And what was so funny is that it gave other people freedom. I remember one couple said, wow, we were really thinking about having people over, but now we realize we can because you can do it. And people just loved that idea, and it just made people want to do more of it. And in fact, people came up to me and said, when can I come to your dinner party? And that wasn't like a fancy thing. It was like maybe 8 people or less. And it just was this wonderful experience because it was like this allowing others to see and come into my world a little bit. And because I was able to do that, they were able to let me into their world as well. So the number 4 reason why I think vulnerability is such a flippin' awesome superpower is it grows and enhances empathy. 5, empowerment. Personal empowerment. True empowerment doesn't come from hiding. It doesn't come from putting up a mask and protecting yourself. You may feel that you're empowered by just hiding and keeping yourself safe, but that is the weakest place to be. True empowerment comes from accepting who you are and flying in the face of what everyone around you is telling you or trying to tell you who you are. And there's nothing that feels better than just letting your authentic self just be. And it could be on a small stage or it can be on a big stage. It doesn't have to be to the masses. It could be coming out to your best friend that you've known for years and years and years and just taking that one step of courage. It could be having a tough conversation with a family member about their perception of you. It could be volunteering for something at work that kind of like lets people know what kind of who you are. Or it could actually be taking the courage to make a phone call and set up a therapy appointment to talk to somebody about things that are going on with you. Whatever form that takes, being vulnerable and allowing that inside to come out a little bit in whatever setting it is one of the most empowering things that you can do. And that's why the number 5 reason why I think that vulnerability is such a superpower is that it is super empowering.